If you're in real estate, then you know the game is always changing. Seriously, what worked last year or even last month might not cut it tomorrow. So today, we're going to break down a modern playbook. We're talking 10 crucial rules that are going to help wholesalers and flippers absolutely dominate the market, not just next year, but all the way through to 2026. Let's dive in. All right, so before we get into the rules, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, the single biggest problem that holds most investors back. It's a dilemma that really separates the pros who scale their business from, well, everyone else who stays stuck. You know what I'm talking about, right? You land an awesome deal, that check hits your bank account, and you feel like you're on top of the world. But then, it's just crickets. The phone isn't ringing, the pipeline is totally dry, and you're right back to square one scrambling for that next opportunity. This feast or famine cycle, it's the #1 killer of wholesaling businesses. Look, here's the reality check. The strategies that maybe worked 5 years ago, they're basically ancient history now. The market's more crowded, sellers are way smarter, and technology is just moving at a crazy pace. If you're not evolving your strategy, you're not just standing still, you are actively falling behind. It is time for a new playbook. Okay, so let's start by building the foundation. These first 3 rules, they're the bedrock of every single profitable deal you will ever do. Get these wrong, and honestly, the other 7 rules aren't going to save you. This right here is the golden rule, and it is completely non-negotiable. Your profit, your entire opportunity, it's all locked in the second you sign that purchase agreement, not when you go to sell it. If you overpay at the start, maybe because the market's hot or you're just desperate for a deal, that is a one-way ticket to losing money. So how do you actually know if you're buying it right? Well, it all comes down to the numbers. You have to know your target margins against the ARV. That's the after repair value. For a simple wholesale, you need to lock in at least a 10 to 13% margin. For a fix and flip, you need more cushion, so you're looking at 15 to 20%. And for a BRRR deal, that's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, you need a big 25 to 30% margin. Just think of these as your financial guardrails. They keep you from flying off a cliff. And this really gets to the core of the problem, doesn't it? Knowing your numbers is great, but it's totally useless if you don't have enough deals coming in to actually be picky. This brings us right back to that main dilemma. How in the world do you fill your pipeline with a steady, consistent flow of motivated sellers? Well, the top investors, they attack this from all sides. You've got your traditional outbound stuff, like direct mail. But the real power today is in inbound marketing, using platforms like Meta, Google, and YouTube so sellers actually come looking for you. And now you've even got these specialized data platforms like GetSellers.io that are designed to just deliver a feed of pre-qualified, motivated sellers right to you, taking all the guesswork out of it. And let's be real, trying to master inbound marketing on your own while running a business, it's tough. That's why the top players partner with specialists who live and breathe this stuff. They work with agencies like Hustle Media, which are experts at running complex ad campaigns on Meta and YouTube to make sure that marketing spend turns into actual profitable deals. Okay, on to rule number 2. Once you have the deal flow, you have to choose the right type of property. It's not just about the price, it's all about the potential. You want to look for a house with a good functional layout. Can you easily expand it? Like turning a 2-bedroom, 1-bath into a much more valuable 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And a huge one right now is finding space for an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, which can totally change the game for your exit strategy. And that leads us perfectly into rule 3, buying in the right location. This is way more nuanced than just finding a good neighborhood. You've got to match the market to what you plan to do with the property. A markets, the really high-end areas, they're best for big margin flips. B and C markets are really the sweet spot, great for both flips and rentals. And D markets, you could make money there, but man, you have to be super careful. Understanding this breakdown is absolutely key. All right, so we've covered the mechanics of the deal. Now, let's talk about the mental game. Because in this business, your own psychology can either be your greatest weapon or your biggest downfall. Rule number 4 sounds so simple, but it is incredibly hard to stick to. Buy on numbers, not on emotion. It is so easy to get what we call deal fever, or you see what everyone else is doing online and you get FOMO. But emotion is the absolute enemy of profit. Every single decision has to be ruthlessly driven by the data and those margins we talked about in rule number 1. And if that sounds a little abstract, let me make it real for you. This number is from a true story, an investor who let emotion completely override the data on one single-family flip. The price tag for that one emotional decision was a staggering $200,000 loss. I mean, that's a pretty powerful reminder to just stick to the numbers, right? But here's the other side of that coin. Rule number 5. Once the data checks out, once the numbers work, you have to act. So many investors get trapped in analysis paralysis. They do all the research, they run all the numbers, and then they just freeze. In this game, when the data gives you a green light, hesitation is the only thing that can kill a great deal. You gotta pull the trigger. Okay, so we've got the deal fundamentals and the right mindset locked in. Now let's talk about how to scale. These next rules are all about making that jump from just doing deals to building a real sustainable business. Rule number 6 is your financial safety net. You need to have reserves. For every single property you hold, you should have, at a minimum, 3 months of mortgage payments tucked away. This isn't dead money. This is your sleep at night fund. It's what covers a surprise vacancy or a roof that suddenly starts leaking. Whether it's cash, a HELOC, or a money market account, the point is it has to be liquid and ready to go. Now, rule number 7 is where so many ambitious investors get totally wiped out. Do not overleverage. It is so tempting to pull out every last penny of equity to go buy the next property and the next one, trying to scale super fast. But that leaves you with zero room for error. A good rule of thumb is to always keep at least 25% equity in your properties. That buffer is what lets you survive a market downturn without being forced to sell at a huge loss. Moving on to rule number 8, which is all about maximizing your exit options. As you can see from this chart, you really want to avoid buying small 2-bedroom homes for rentals unless there's an obvious way to add another bedroom. And why is that? Because the pool of buyers and renters for a 2-bedroom is just so much smaller. The moment you can offer a 3-bedroom home, your demand just explodes. You can market to families, you can charge higher rents, and your resale value is way higher. It's one of the best ways to force appreciation into a property. And that brings us to rule 9, which is a really critical mindset shift about your long-term vision. Flipping is awesome for active income. That's how you generate cash to live. But real generational wealth, that's built by holding assets. The strategy is so simple. Flip to be rich, but hold to be wealthy. For every, say, 10 houses you do, maybe you sell 5 to fund your operations and your lifestyle, and you keep the other 5 as long-term rentals that build your net worth while you're sleeping. And here we are at our final forward-looking rule. This is the one that really separates the top performers of today from the true legends of tomorrow. This is the 2026 advantage. So here it is, rule number 10. You have to leverage technology and build systems. This is the ultimate unfair advantage. It really breaks down into 3 core ideas. 1, automate your lead generation so you're not constantly hunting for the next deal. 2, use data, not your gut, for market analysis. And 3, systematize your follow-up so that no potential deal ever slips through the cracks. In today's market, tech and systems are your #1 lever for growth. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in the real world? How do you automate the single most time-consuming part of this business, finding those motivated sellers, so you can finally break that feast or famine cycle for good? The answer is leveraging data-driven platforms that are built for this. For instance, services like GetSellers.io are designed specifically to create a real-time feed of pre-qualified seller leads. The whole goal is to build an engine that powers your acquisition machine, freeing you up to focus on what you do best, making great deals. And that really brings us to the final question, and this one's for you. Are you ready to stop chasing deals and start building a predictable, reliable system for success? The playbook is right here. The tools exist. Now it's your turn to take action and go claim your market. Thanks so much for watching.